of God. So, the Battle of Winterfell. Why am I talking so loud? I, of course, am talking about the Battle of Winterfell, episode 3 for season 8 of Game of Thrones, the final season of Game of Thrones. You haven't seen the episode? Yeah, yada, yada, yada. Spoiler. I feel like I shouldn't have to say that at this point. You already know I'm about to spoil some shit. So if you have not seen episode 3 of Game of Thrones season 8, aka the Battle of Winterfell, get the hell out of here. Like, just go. Just shoo. Go somewhere. Go watch the episode. Hopefully you come back and you don't get too offended that I tried to shoo you from this video. That being said, this episode is the holy shit moments of all holy shit moments, because every Game of Thrones fan know that this episode is the culmination of years of buildup. The Night King and the army of the dead have arrived at Winterfell. Shit is about to go down and people are probably gonna die. I was looking forward to this more than anything else this weekend. Yes, that includes Endgame. In the words of the old tongue from Westeros, I was shooketh, like completely shooketh for the entire episode. I was shook while I was watching it. I was shook after it. I was shook when I went to sleep thinking about it. When I woke up this morning, I mean, I wasn't shook anymore necessarily, but I was still shaking. Like, there were still shake-worthy thoughts going through my head. Man, they're victorious at what cost? Because holy shit, it really does feel like at the end of this show that the Night King blew a 3-1 lead, or maybe even a 3-0 lead. It looked like the dead was on like a 45-1 run or something like that. Like, shit was looking ugly. I will get to that in a second. First, I want to start at the very beginning of the episode because they really do capture the tone. You really do get the sense that everybody in the show is terrified shitless of what's about to happen. Look on Tyrion's face as he's about to head down to the crypt. You see the look on Sam Tarwell's face as he gets handed dragonglass daggers and sent off to battle, where he's like, holy shit, I might actually die this week. Off the bat, though, they do make some decisions that made me start questioning things, where I'm just kind of like, really? That's how we start off with? Okay, this is weird. For one thing, Melisandre shows up out of fucking nowhere. Like, this bitch has been gone since the beginning of season 7. She did say that she would eventually come back to Westeros, but we haven't seen or heard from her since then. Like, redheaded Deus Ex Machina bitch, just coming back to save the day. It reminded me of episode 6, I believe it was episode 6 of season 7, where Benjen just comes out of nowhere to save Jon Snow. He's like, hey, look, here's my horse and here's my heroic death. Come on, man, you've got a Targaryen queen to fuck. Reminded me of that because Melisandre shows up and she just touches the Dothraki blades and she says, the Lord of Light. Yeah. Then all of a sudden their swords burst into flame and everybody's like, yeah, let's go kick some ass with these new fire swords. I was like, okay, this is weird as fuck. If they had at least set up Melisandre, if they had set up her journey to Winterfell, maybe we saw a couple of scenes of this in the previous few episodes. I don't know, maybe she gets to Winterfell just like everybody else before the army of the dead gets there. Maybe along her journey we see that she sees the army of the dead. She's able to somehow get around them. Regardless, it doesn't really do shit because this leads to another confusing moment where the Dothraki are lost within the first 5 minutes of the episode. Look, I know that the writers are trying to illustrate how hopeless the battle is and how the people that are fighting for the side of the living don't really have a chance here. I feel like you could have illustrated that without making it look stupid. I don't know whose decision it was to send the Dothraki out into battle like that, but it was just dumb. They couldn't even see the army of the dead. Why are they charging off into the middle of the night into the army of the dead and they can't even see them? I mean, are we trying to give the Dothraki to the Night King this early? We know that he can create armies out of your army. We also know that he has at least 100,000 or more of these things out there and he has giants. More on that in a second. I feel like it was a really weird and kind of stupid decision to just lose the Dothraki in the beginning because tactically speaking, it doesn't make any sense. And I know, yeah, I'm not a tactician, I'm not a military commander, but it just seems like a really odd decision to give away the Dothraki in their position that early in the fight. We get to the actual fight. The army of the dead charge Winterfell. It's chaos. It's absolute chaos. They did say that this was going to be the longest filmed battle sequence like in history. I grew up on Gladiator and Troy and Lord of the Rings, obviously, so I definitely wanted to see that put to the test, and I will probably, yeah, it is accurate. I will say that. Pretty much the entire episode is nothing but fighting, swords and bodies flying, zombies going everywhere. Our favorite characters that we know and love, really in the thick of it, just fighting, slashing, hacking, trying to kill these things. At a certain point, it doesn't even feel like they're trying to win. It feels like survival. So many moments where some of these characters had a chance to die and didn't because somebody saved their life. There's like multiple moments between Brienne and Jaime where they save each other's life and the other one looks like they're about to die and then the other one comes over there and saves their life. Jon has a moment like that later on in the episode when he tries to corner the Night King and then the Night King's bitch ass just like, yeah, deal with my dead brethren. And he's about to be killed because he's surrounded by a whole bunch of them, but then Dany comes in with her dragon. Dany herself gets saved by Jorah moments after that. When she's about to get killed, when she falls off and Drogo's back, and then Jorah shows up and he saves her life. It really does go to show how dire their circumstances are, and you know that they're really just fighting just to buy time so that they can kill the Night King. Big standout was Arya. Arya was such a badass. She used that weapon that Gendry made for her. She is just slaying these things left and right. You're just sitting there like, holy shit, go Arya! Yes, this is Dame Lillard in the fourth quarter. That's what I'm talking about. Seriously, she was MJ game 6 on these things until, you know, she hit her head and then we saw some of that fear come back to her. Like, Arya has been so fearless for so long now. It's just kind of weird to see Arya with a scared look on her face. And then that transitions into a section of the episode where Arya is like, you know, she's hiding from the Whites inside of Winterfell. It honestly felt a little bit like it had transitioned into a horror movie. I thought it was a really nice change of pace. She, of course, is saved by the Hound and by Beric, and then obviously this leads to Beric dying. Beric wasn't the only one that bit the dust this week. Also, Eddie Tollett, I feel weird because I always seem to forget his name in other videos, but I remember it now because he's dead. Lady Mormont, can we just give a shout out to the House Mormont? House Mormont are some motherfucking gangsters. Seriously, Lyanna Mormont and Jorah Mormont went out in the most OG way possible. Seriously, you couldn't come up with a more badass ending for them. Lyanna Mormont took out a fucking giant, and she was getting crushed while doing so. I was just like, she's the truth. I wish she was sitting on the Iron Throne. Jorah died defending Dany from a whole legion of Whites, and honestly, that's perfect, because Jorah has devoted his entire life to defending this woman that has friend-zoned him from the beginning. If you were going to die doing anything, it would be defending Dany. That makes the most sense to me. So he died perfectly. He died a warrior's death. Shout out to House Mormont. Gotta show them some love. The fight between the 3 dragons was actually really awesome. Like, at first, Jon is on Rhaegar, and they're fighting Viserion, and both of the dragons are really beating the shit out of each other. Looks like Jon's in trouble at that point, and then Dany comes in with Drogo, and then she kind of finishes off Viserion. Viserion flies away, and even though his throat is ripped, he still can breathe fire, which... Jon was such a badass in this episode, despite the fact that he didn't really get utilized the way I wanted him to get utilized. Worried that he was going to be stuck on a dragon for the entire episode. I'm like, that's a waste. Jon is one of the best swordsmen in the show. Why would you leave him on a dragon for the whole time? That's not who he is. That's not what he's done. Get him on the ground. Get him in the thick of things. He does eventually get on the ground. At that point, it's not about fighting the Whites. It's about getting to the Night King, because the Night King has his sights set on Bran and Theon, who... you know, he dies pretty quickly. This is also another thing I want to say. The Night King is a straight up bitch, okay? He's a bitch. He's a punk. All these years, building this army, leading them to Winterfell, and then Jon wants that one-on-one with you. Jon wants all the smoke, okay? He's coming for your head. He's like, what's up, bro? I'm right here. What you gonna do? And Night King is like, I don't want those problems. Hey, dead guys, protect me. Protect me. I don't want to deal with this. He didn't have that same energy when Theon was charging at him later in the episode and he killed him in like 0.3 seconds. I'm like, dude, you just a punk. You knew Jon had that action. You knew he was about it. You knew he could have killed you. Night King is a bitch. That's a little bit disappointing. It's also kind of weird that the giants that we saw marching with his army earlier in season 7 and other seasons, giants are just gone. Apparently it's just one giant. Maybe they only had the budget for one giant considering all the other shenanigans going on, but still, it's just kind of weird to me. I did mention Beric dying, by the way. I thought it was kind of funny that Beric died. It was his 7th time dying, and 7 feels like a very symbolic religious metaphor in Westeros in Game of Thrones, because the 7 scepters, the 7 kingdoms, the 7 mothers and fathers, all that religious stuff. It just kind of makes sense that Beric's 7th time dying was the final one, and he died so that Arya could live. And Arya lived so that she could kill the Night King. I'm also a little bit disappointed that the rest of the White Walkers didn't do jack shit. Apparently didn't like their boss so much, they just let Arya sneak up on all of them. Like, there was that little wisp of wind, one of them turned, and by that point it was just too late. Fight scenes were so grand, so epic, all of the sword fighting, all the zombies, everything. There are just too many epic moments to count in this episode. We got our biggest one at the end. Arya is the GOAT, okay? You heard it here. Arya is the GOAT. She hit the Night King with that switch hands move. It's almost like she pressed double X and then square or something in an RPG. It was crazy. The Night King is dead and his army is dead, and Winterfell is victorious, except, they lost a lot of people. The Dothraki are gone. I guess we should actually call them the Dead Raki. I guess that makes more sense. Hey, judge me if you want. That's just the way the internet works. We lost Lyanna Mormont, we lost Theon, we lost Ed Tullett, we lost Melisandre. Melisandre died at the end of the episode. Give me the chance to revel in the fact that Ghost is alive. Dany's 2 dragons survived, even though they got fucked up, so there is that. I thought every single character had a badass moment and had a moment to shine. I loved Jaime proving his worth as a warrior in battle with one hand and still slashing these things up. Brienne was awesome. Tormund was awesome. Samwell somehow survived. I'm not entirely sure how, but again, plot armor. With this plot armor, he's probably going to survive to the finale, if I'm being honest. Night King is officially dead. We can set our sights on Cersei. It's the last war of Westeros. The North is depleted, so now they have to try to take King's Landing, and they don't have half of their people anymore. Guys, I thought this was an episode filled with a lot of epic moments, epic battles, epic character scenes. Really nice touch that Arya killed the Night King with the dagger that Bran gave her in season 7. I thought that was a really nice parallel, nice foreshadowing they did there. It wasn't perfect. There are some things I wish they could have done better, some things I was disappointed with, but overall, as far as one of the longest battle sequences ever shot, they could have done worse. Guys, tell me what your favorite moment of the Battle of Winterfell was. Put that in the comment section below. Please like and subscribe to the Superfan Show, and as always, if you like what you see, tell me how you feel, and stay tuned to hear more from the Man of Steel. Peace.